Good morning. Happy today to you, everyone. I am William Brown, and this is One Word Conversations. Um, I am so excited about this conversation because it has, I guess, it's been showing up in my life for a while, and trying to get a deeper understanding of it or appreciation of it is something that um, that not that I'm just leaning into, and so the word is freedom, and so it is on so many levels and so many ways that it shows up for me. But I wanted to bring a dear friend in and have her have this conversation with me. So my friend Angie, I
Hey,
think I hit the
William.
right button. Oh, here you
I'm
are.
here.
So, Angie, I would love for you to introduce yourself any way that feels right to you.
Hmm. Let's see. My name is Angie Cole. I am the creator of Untaming the Wild, which is really relevant for our conversation today.
Mm,
I'm a coach. I've been coaching in some form for almost 15 years, which is
mm,
insane to me.
mm,
Um, and full time running my own business for 7. So
mm,
those are pretty big parts of my identity. I'm also a wanderer for sure. Kind of always
mm,
have been, and only more recently really claimed that as something I'm proud of instead of something I need to
mm.
hide
Uh,
or justify.
right, I get that.
Mm,
No, when I was thinking about this conversation and the word freedom,
mm,
I recognize for me, um, most of the times when I think of freedom, it's I look for where I don't have it, you know?
mm,
It's not where
mhm,
I have it, it's where I don't
mhm,
have it.
mhm.
And then I go, why don't I have it? And then I
Yeah.
make all the excuses or reasons, why I don't have freedom in certain areas. How does freedom show up for you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad you said that. That's kind of been my mission the last several years. And it it became pretty clear to me early on that getting more freedom is about what you just said, which is looking for the places you do have it, looking for the places you do have it, and then expanding those edges
Mm-hmm.
instead of worrying about the places you don't. Because so many of the
Mm-hmm.
places you don't are a function of somebody else's power or control,
Hmm.
right? There might be
Wow.
places that I want freedom,
Right.
don't have them. And if it were up to me, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. I've definitely discovered a lot about what people say they want and what they actually
Right.
want when it comes to freedom.
Right.
But I think the crusade I've been on is to really encourage folks to look at it that way, to find the places where they do have it and to create just a little more space.
Right.
Start with where you do have that agency and then expand.
Right. It's really in the time that we're in with
Mm-hmm.
quarantine and stay at home,
Mm-hmm.
lockdown. It's very interesting the language that people use about about this time. It really
Yeah.
says what how it really occurs to them. But I spend a lot of my time at home, working from home and doing things, but it feels totally different now that I am encouraged to stay home. So it's just like, wait a minute, what do you mean?
Oh,
Stay
for
home.
sure. For sure. I might love staying home, but not having the option and being told that I can't is a whole other story. Yeah.
Right. And it's like now you're bumping up against my freedom, right? Now
Mhm.
my choices and my um desire to do things and just kind of wander or just
Yeah.
be is now is now put into question. Why do you the question that come up is why do you think that freedom is so important, or is it, or is that something that we've created?
The root of that for me, the reason I think freedom is important, is that when we are free, then we have to decide. We have to choose.
Right.
And it's in our choosing where we get to express our desire, and we get to become fully expressed.
Right.
The more free I become, the more confronted I am with what do you really want? And that I have to know the answer to that question.
Right.
When I get more free. When I'm not free, when it's somebody else's fault, when somebody else is deciding, or I have a boss to be grumpy at, or I can blame the patriarchy or whatever.
Right.
Then I don't have to know the answer to that question, because why do I have to know? I'm not going to get it anyway. So why even ask?
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I think it's important. It's a good question. I've thought a lot about what I think it is, and less time thinking about why it's important. I think because I don't think it's fair. I mean, since I was a little kid, fairness was a big deal to me.
Right.
I didn't want to be told what to do by anybody.
Right.
And if I was being told what to do, I wanted to know why. I wanted to know that it was just. I wanted to know that people were being treated equally. I wanted to know that I wasn't getting, either more of something. Right? Yeah, or even the long end of it. I actually didn't want to have more than other people either.
Right. Wow.
So it's just not fair. Freedom is an equalizer, and freedom is about choice. And I just think that we all are worthy of the same amount of choice.
And it's, I posted a post on today about, freedom starts in your mind, right? And I believe that, but it also stops in your mind, right? Right. Yeah. And there are many times in my life where I've been given freedom, or feel that I've given myself permission, or all that kind of to do something, and then it just stops me. Then something happens in me, if it's in my mind or my heart or something, it just stops me from exercising that. And to bring in a conversation that we had a number of months ago that I wrote down, and I kind of felt, and it resonated with me, but I'm still trying to understand. You said something to the, well, this is what I heard, so I don't know if you said it right. Okay. Said that, freedom has responsibilities. There's a responsibility to freedom. Yeah. And what to, unpack that for me and kind of help me kind of really get what I heard.
Yeah. Well, as I was thinking about this conversation, it's one of the first things I wrote. I was like, well, what do I think about freedom? What do I really want to talk about? And one of the first things I wrote is that it is a great responsibility. I remember hearing a quote. I think I was in high school. I was at some, did you have boys and girls state in high school? Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
We had this thing where you could get elected to go to girls state and boys state. It was basically like a mock government kind of camp thing. So I went to girls state. Yeah. Okay. And I decided I was going to run for some office. And part of running for that office was that I had to give a speech on a stage, like a politician with I almost called it a pulpit, but that's a church.
Right. Right. Podium, pulpit, right? Sometimes
felt like a pulpit.
Still part, right.
and someone else, they had someone else speaking at this kind of gathering that we were having. And one of the quotes that I just was cemented in my memory was that with great freedom comes great responsibility. And it has just been like a pebble in my shoe, I think, since then, trying to figure out what does that mean. And what I've come to my current relationship with that is, as I am expanding my freedom, as I'm making deliberate choices to become more free in my mind, because I think, to your point, it begins in our mind, and that we question the rules, we question the bars of the cage, we question those things. Then going back to, then you have to know what you want, and that choice feels like a huge responsibility, especially because of my place on the spectrum of privilege. I'm a blonde white lady with a college education. My parents, grew up speaking English. For all those like coins in my privilege jar, I do have a larger proportion of choices and options. And so I better use them well, is how that feels. I better use them well and not use them just for my own gain. Use them to be the tide that raises all ships as much as I can. So that's where the connection to responsibility lies for me. If you're going to have it, you better know what you're going to do with it.
Right. You know what? And what came to mind for me was the reason why I personally kind of look to where I don't have freedom is because of my people's history in this country, right?
For sure.
And the country. Yeah. And so feeling that, yes, in my mind, I can believe that I'm free.
Yeah.
But recognizing that there are a lot of people, or there may be a lot of people or institutions that are keeping me from being free.
For sure.
And so it's like, wow, it's kind of it's like in the DNA now. It's in that, to kind of look for where are your freedoms being, taken away from you, or being muted. And there's a part of me, some of my labels, it's like, don't worry about that. Just be free, be yourself, and all that other kind of stuff. But the reality is that I have to be aware of how a free Black man thinks and shows up in our society.
Right.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, and when we were talking about freedom begins in the mind, that is connected to our identity and back to labels, who we believe ourselves to be. And that even expanding that notion of what can it look like for a Black man in America? What freedom is available to you, that just because of the identity and the labels you've been wearing, that you've kind of that have been even invisible to you. Not that there aren't real ones. You're going to find an edge at some point. Same is true being a woman in this world. It's not an either or. We don't put on blinders and say, I'm only going to look at this one, or I'm only going to look at this one.
Right.
It's both. It's true that there are places where your choices are limited and are going to be impeded by other people. And it's true that one of the most radical freedom fighting things we can do from our marginalized labels is to find more freedom.
Right. Yeah, I one of my my reoccurring fears, let's just say that,
Mm-hmm.
is that some of my very curious, outlandish um, moments of genius that I have are muted because of my
Mm-hmm.
labels of, black male in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, if I took on other labels, would my great ideas or my grandiose ideas or my big life that I see for myself be received, or would I show up in them differently?
Mm-hmm.
And just working through those fears and those kind of, understand, it's like pushing up to my freedom, or my
Yeah.
understanding of freedom to just be.
Yep. Can you guess what Coach Angie is going to say?
Well, no, coach, this is this
Coach
is
Angie.
this is bring it
Coach
on,
Angie
coach.
would say there's only one way to find out,
Right. Hmm.
right? If we're sitting around being afraid of what might happen, we're
Right.
never going to know. I'm going to go down fighting like hell to figure
Right.
out what's true about that or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And there are going to
Yeah, I
be,
get it.
it's like water flowing through a canyon. There are going to be impediments. There are going to be places where the water doesn't flow. Fine.
Right.
Screw ya. I'm going this way.
Right.
Right?
I got it.
But if
Got
the
it.
water never flows, we don't know. We don't know how much space there's going to be. We don't know how much,
Right.
the extent to which your grandiose ideas will be adopted or not.
Right. Yeah, it's just this conversation, this online conversation that I'm having. There was, I noticed, I think I mentioned a couple days ago, that what this time is revealing for me is that there were a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that I said were reasons, were really excuses. You
Uh-huh.
know, there,
Mm-hmm.
I was in inaction, for excuses, but I had
Yeah,
good reasons, and I like, and I would give you the evidence, of all that.
totally.
And when you're, at home, and the only way that you're going to connect to the people that you want to serve and that you want to make a difference in
Yeah.
is through this virtual, way. You decide, hey, are we doing this or not? Is it now, is it because of your hair, you're not getting a haircut, or or
Yeah.
close shave,
Yep.
or anything, or is it because you're just scared? you know you know
Yep.
it's like, okay, and it's
And it's
like,
not that the fear isn't valid. The fear is
right,
valid. All those
right,
things, all those excuses have roots in truth and shades of, possible, you know, realness, I guess. But
right,
it's do it anyway, right?
right. And
Courage is not the absence of fear. It's being afraid and doing it anyway.
right, and it's like, when I bring freedom in and involved,
Mm,
it is not something that, okay, I'm free, and it just kind of stay there. It kind of comes and goes.
oh
It's like,
yeah.
okay, there's an awareness of
Hmm.
this freedom, you know, or
Yeah.
or not, right? There is, and just kind of, and then it goes back to the responsibility of deciding, and the choices, and and all the
Mhm.
responsibility. And I think sometimes, I don't know, this just came to me. The reason why I don't exercise my freedom is I don't know what I want. Right? It's
Mhm.
like, outside of that, it's like, you spend, I can see myself spending all this time breaking down this wall, picking the lock on this cage. And it's like, oh crap, now what am I going to do? You know?
Yeah.
you know and it's like, all right, maybe I should have had that conversation with myself before I started all this work to free myself, or not, I don't know.
I think you can do it at the same time. I
Right.
don't think one has to wait for the other. But just not sitting around fondling your excuses
Right.
is the
Well,
first
that,
step.
yeah, that was an
Yeah.
image, right?
Yep.
Fondling
Yeah,
my
we do.
excuses.
We
Right.
sit around
Right.
and we hold them and we
Right.
touch them and we say, "Oh, this one,
Right.
this is a really good one. I love this one." Nobody can argue
Right.
with this one. Nobody can argue that, being a Black man in America means that it's going to be hard for me. Nobody can argue with that one, so I'm going to hold on to that one.
Right.
It's a great one to hide out in.
Right.
And it's not to minimize all the ways in which that is true,
Right.
but it doesn't get to be the whole truth.
Right. Right. I get that. I get that. But but I like I said, I can still hear. I don't know what label is saying, but but it's true. It's not, it's an and. It's not an
But
either
so
or. It's an
what?
and.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So what?
Mhm.
It can be
Right.
true. But isn't that, I mean, I feel that way about being a woman trying to run her own business. I didn't come from people who have money or know what to do with money. In fact, my family might be the example of what not to do with money.
I got one of those there.
But it just feels like adding bars to my own cage. Some of them were not put there by me, but I don't have to sit around and add more and reinforce the ones that somebody else gave to me.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's sometimes it feels like that's the exercise that I'm in, right? It's just,
Yeah.
take one out and put one back in, right? It's like,
Right.
it's just kind of replacing the bars and prettying
But good
up the
news,
prison, right?
you don't have to keep doing that.
Right. There was something that you mentioned earlier that I want to come back to. I think it was in your introduction of justifying your freedom or your wildness or your untamedness. What is what does that feel like, or why did you use those words?
I spent most of my life, just feeling like a weirdo, first of all. Like I was always too much in all kinds of ways. I always wanted too much. If somebody was dishing up ice cream and wanted to know if I wanted chocolate or vanilla, I would ask for a little bit of both, please.
Right.
I just
Right.
can I have half a scoop of one and half a scoop of the other? And so it was interesting because one of the first words you sent when we were talking about this was independent. And when you said that, I was like, oh, there's a word. Those two words, independent and freedom, it feels like my whole life has been about trying to understand if I can be free and not independent.
Right.
So it's been that dance of how do I stay free and do what I want, do what I need, do what feels right for me, and not bulldoze other people, or not completely cut other people out. So there are going to be people who have feelings about your freedom.
Right.
There are going to be people that have feelings about you choosing to do something that's inconvenient for them, or isn't what they would like you to do, or isn't what they think you're supposed to do.
Right.
I'm supposed to be a good Southern woman. And a good Southern woman, finds a man to tell her what to do. A good Southern woman is quiet and stays at home and wants to cook. And I was never that. I wanted to go. I wanted to see. I wanted to explore. And it always felt like something I was kind of apologizing for.
Right.
Because it wasn't really what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
I went to 5 colleges before I finally got my degree. That's not what you're supposed to do. But I
Right.
knew it's a whole long story about how all that came to be, but I knew each step of the way that I was doing the thing that was best for me. I've been, as you know, I've been living and traveling nomadically for the last 4 years, going on, I don't know, 4+ years. And as that journey started in earnest, I found myself saying things like, oh, well, I'm doing this new thing and it's kind of scary. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to work out. And people who'd known me for 20 years would look at me and say, what are you saying? You have always done this. This is not a new thing.
Right.
What are you saying?
Right.
And as I stopped, I was like, oh, right. You mean when I went to 5 colleges and lived in, I don't know, 20 different states and moved every 6 months? Oh, you mean that whole part of my whole life?
Right.
That thing?
Wow.
But it was amazing to see the identity as it moved to the forefront, as it moved into something I was doing and claiming on purpose, as opposed to something that was just like something cute I did in college. Wasn't a phase anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it really shifted. And the word independent, a lot of times in that community, people use the phrase, being location independent.
Right. Yeah.
And it never felt that way for me. No matter where I am connected to that place. That's why I travel. I don't want to be independent from the place.
Right. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of because I've said for myself that I want to create a business or a lifestyle that's location independent, and it was this feeling of I want to be free of the life that I think that people tell me I should have, right? You know?
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted. That's what I really wanted to say, but you can't say that, right? Or I felt like you can't say that. It's like, I want you to stop telling me this is how I should live my life.
Yeah.
And it's really, and I love how you said that, wherever you are, you're connected to that. That's your home. You're not independent from that. You're not this foreigner just kind of, creeping in on people. You want to be immersed in where you are and just have the freedom. One of my core values is independence. And it is really, feeling that I want to own what I say, own what I do, and just really say, you know what? I don't know where the hell that came from, but this is what I think about, and this is this is who I am. I think what Rick, just shares, is really true. And I really feeling that you have to justify your life. I don't know if it's a part of our system, what we're socialized to do, but this is what this is what you're allowed to do. This is what and just go from there. And anything out of that, you're wild, or you're untamed, or you're all these things. You're irresponsible.
Right? You're reckless and irresponsible and selfish. Again, all kinds of labels interplay with that. Not to say that straight white men don't have their own version of that, but certainly if you're in a marginalized position, then folks really want to know why you're doing what you're doing and why you think that would work. And
it is because when I play around with freedom, sometimes freedom occurs to me as liberation or liberating, right? Or reckless and
Yeah, totally.
and and
Mhm.
chaos, and it's like,
Mhm.
all right, what am I creating? And is it that moment that you were talking before about the responsibility is the choice.
Mhm. Mhm.
Your choice basically defines what it is, if it's reckless or if it's liberation. I mean,
Well, and that
I don't
it's
know.
you don't know in the moment.
Right,
That's also why it's a big responsibility. You make your
right,
best guess, but there are going to be consequences,
right,
and we aren't independent from one another. We just aren't.
right,
Um, and so part of freedom is then you are also responsible for your choice. You're
right,
responsible for the outcome. I can't make a choice and then blame somebody else if it didn't go right.
right,
So
right,
that's where the responsibility comes in, is you're signing up for, all right, it's me, like I'm all in one way or the other, no matter how this goes.
right,
This is my choice.
right. And yeah, it's almost I was start thinking of justification again. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you justify it within yourself first,
Yeah.
and that's how I feel. And then you make it, um, and then you have to kind of repeat that to
Mm.
the people around you, the people that love and care about you, and want to keep you safe and want to keep you
Yeah.
from making mistakes in their mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, the Sammy Davis song just came to mind. I gotta be me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just what that is. Um, and it's like we talk a big game about freedom and independence, but when it shows up, you know, it's like, whoa, 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 wait a second. like, it's like you
It's
said, it's too
confronting.
much, right?
Yeah, it's confronting. In the early days when I was starting to travel and was talking about it a lot because it felt so new to me, the thing I wasn't expecting was how often people said to me that they were jealous,
Hmm,
and how often they said, "Oh, you're so lucky. I
hmm,
really wish I could do that. You're so lucky. I wish I could do that." And especially folks that were close to me and I could be really honest with them,
hmm.
several times I would say, let's talk about it. If you want to, let's talk about how you can do. Oh, no, no, no. I just
Oh,
couldn't.
no, right,
No,
right.
no.
Wow,
I offered to buy people plane tickets.
wow.
No, I
No,
just couldn't. I just,
right,
and so that I started to see, we say we want freedom, but
right,
it's actually not a simple, it's not a
right,
simple skill. It is a skill. It is a complete, well, it is a shift in our identity and our point of view to consider
right,
that because if I consider I have more freedom than I've been claiming or giving myself permission to have,
right,
that's super confronting. I've got to look at
right,
why. I've got to look at
right,
what story I've been telling myself.
right. And that unplugging of the matrix,
Mhm.
there was that I forget the character's name um, that there was a point where he wanted to go back in,
Yeah.
because he was like, yeah, I know it's not real, but I'm sick of this.
Yeah. I'm all right with that.
I'm sick of reality. What
Mhm.
the realness of this, and it's
Yeah.
like, even though we know um, that there is a level of our life that is not real and not working for us, right?
Mhm.
We still that's what we'll hold dearly to that,
Yeah.
because of the responsibility and the desire, and really admitting to ourselves and others that that this is what we want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Right. Putting a flag in
And
the ground to say, this is my choice. This is what I'm doing.
right. And going back to one of our, our coaching conversations about, stating my desires, you know, there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah, I just kind of, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna finally do a project or, a homework assignment that, that my coach told me
Mhm.
to do.
Mhm.
But sitting down with it and it's like, oh, I can't admit that. I'm not, I don't want that. It's like, what? Oh, it's like,
Yeah.
where is this coming from? Right.
Right. What does that
And
say about me?
right. And it's like, so I am, I was confronted with that there are things that I felt that I wanted,
Mm.
that I wouldn't give myself permission for, or I wouldn't even acknowledge that I wanted it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, it's like, oh, I'm free. Right? Right? It's like, really? Right? And it's like, really, so really looking at our desires. Well, that were our desires. I guess this is just a question where our desires give us an indication of areas that
Mm.
we want to be free, or we want to explore, or something.
Definitely. And I'm not the first person to say this or believe this, but that our desires are particular to us, that they've been kind of given to us as directional arrows.
Right.
I have been curious and freedom seeking since like birth.
Right.
My mom actually tells this amazing story about when I was born, and she was a delivery room nurse. So she knew, like, you got to hear the baby cry, right? And so she said, I came out and I was totally quiet, but the doctors were like, everything's perfect. She's just quiet.
Checking
And
it
she's
out.
like, no,
Right.
make the baby cry. She's like, you have to make my baby cry. And she said that the doctor like smacked my little butt, and that I just kind of like shivered. Have you ever, I'm sure you've spanked a kid and they're like, the anger, like I was mad and I refused to cry. She was like, you were
Right.
stubborn
Wow.
even then.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
So
here. I don't need the I don't need
don't
to
tell me
tell
what
you
to do.
that.
My first expression was, don't tell me what to do. So sorry, a little sidetrack there. But so yes, our desires are breadcrumbs that we can follow. And then when you get to an edge and you hear that voice that goes, oh no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Well, why not? Why
Right.
not?
Wow.
Are you sure you can't do that?
Yeah.
Or is
Rick
that
has
an old story? Yeah.
yeah, Rick has a great question.
Right.
What are you freeing yourself from exactly?
Mhm.
That
It depends. I think
yeah.
it depends. I think whatever the answer to that question is, when you say, oh, I could never do that.
Right.
And then the question is, well, why not? It might be because, and this is where independent gets tricky. I spent a lot of my early life trying to be totally independent, meaning I wanted it to be true that my choices had no legitimate impact on anyone else. That's what I wanted to be true. That's not true, turns out.
Right.
And I heard a lot of
Right.
people in my pursuit of that belief. So, free from what? If you have a family and, selling your house and leaving everybody behind to go live in Puerto Rico is not, not possible for you. Maybe you don't want to free yourself from your family. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So I think it's more about, back to the beginning of this conversation, where are the places that I am already free? And if I'm looking for more, the place to do that is expanding the edges where you already have it. So what are you freeing yourself from? Your own thoughts, your own stories, limitations that are self-imposed. I so strongly believe that so many of us could feel so much more free in our lives if that's all we did. If we just started there, forget all the places where my freedom is not up to me. Right. Forget all that. It's true that I can't go live in the UK for 2 years without any different visas. That's just true. I don't have that freedom. Right. So, but if I just leave all the places alone where I don't have it and only focus on the places where I do, my whole life can be different.
Right. I totally get that. And we have what Paul, I think this is.
What does that guy have to say?
It's like we sometimes justify our desires or choices of freedom to others by creating hurdles. As we're told, our journey needs to have things to overcome. I just can't, you're right, I can't just be about flow, right? It just can't, it can't be easy. It can't just be going. And I think I really feel that for me that it's like there is like, okay, I'm free. It's like, oh crap. Should I be free? Or there's other people who are not free, or what else, and it's like, all right. And then and then it's like, all right, run, fool. Right. I mean, it's like, it is all the things that we kind of keep us from just exploring that and recognize. And I really appreciate you saying that our independence, that pursuit of independence is something that that will cause more harm, that could cause more harm if we don't recognize that there are connections. There is, the more on this self-discovery journey that I'm on, I realize that I'm on this journey alone with others, and the more that I recognize and willing to have conversations with the others that are on this journey with me, and just, sometimes I can articulate where I am on my journey, and sometimes I can't. And sometimes people like yourself can help me identify where I am on this journey. And so that is, yes, there's an independence to this, but the recognition that there's a lot of other supportive journeymen or journey people, or I don't know what.
It's one of the things. It's one of the things that's taken the most courage is to. I work with my clients around this a lot, which is to know first what I want and then make a decision about what I want to do with it based on all the other things that are important to me too. But knowing first has to happen. But it can be heartbreaking. It can be scary. It can be hard. It can be, it's tough to have those conversations. But it sure beats hiding out in I can't land, just pretending that, that's true and you don't have any choice. But if you want to show up and be fully alive in your life, that's what it takes. You got to be doing both. You have to be on your personal journey in the purity of your own heart, in the purity of your own desire. And then consider all the other ways in which that has impact.
No. Well, thank you very much. Now, is there anything else that you want to leave us with? That was a great place to leave us. But if there's anything else you want to add, or just tell people how they can connect with you and keep on and start another conversation with you.
Is there anything else? I think we've covered the core of it, again, it can feel so righteous. And this is such a controversial thing to say. I mean, freedom is controversial, right? Because it is intertwined with privilege and power and oppression. It just is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a risky thing to say, but I'm going to keep saying it, which is we all have access to more freedom, more agency, more options, more choice, more space than we are taking claim of. And even if you just start somewhere small, and again, please hear me say that is not to discount all the places where we don't have it.
Right. Got it.
But screw all that stuff. I mean, as much as it doesn't mean that you have none. And so find the places where you do and lead that revolution in your own life. From that place, you're going to be much better equipped to then face the places where you do have to deal with some asshole who thinks you shouldn't be allowed to do the thing you want to do, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how can we connect to you?
You can check out my website, which is untamingthewild.com. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm all over the social medias, and all those connections are in my website. The other fun thing I'm up to right now, as you know, during this quarantine, is I'm doing something called study hall. So multiple times a week, folks are coming together to do co-working, which if you're new to working from home or you haven't heard of co-working before, it's just a couple of hours where folks come together with the things that they're working on, the places they're stuck, the things they want to get off the to-do list. And we come together to hold that space together and get that stuff done. Right. So there's a tab for that on my website as well. You can find the schedule. Enter your email address so then you can get we're trying to have some security in these days of Zoom and people doing stupid things. So you just have to enter your email address and then you'll get all the details. So that's happening multiple times a week. Mondays, we're doing something special called Tutor Times, where I'm having special guests come and host an actual topic. So that's a little bit different than regular study hall. And then on Fridays, with our friend Jennifer Gines of Kindageous, she's coming to do recess on Fridays. Just play, just grown-ups playing. Bring the whole family. Actually, we've had kids for recess, so family friendly.
I was recessed last week. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, was it a good time?
Yeah, it was. It's good.
I wasn't able to join last week, but yeah, it sounds like, I mean, it's what Jennifer does. She brings the fun, she brings the joy. So it sounds like she is definitely doing that. And just, a time at the end of the week to kind of relax and give yourself a little space to unwind.
Wonderful. Well, Angie, thank you very much for this time. I am going to put you back in the green room if you can stay for a little bit, and I'll close the show, and then we'll chat. All right. Bye-bye. Wow. Thank you very much for being here today and hearing this conversation. I am really amazed. I'm always amazed with my friends. I don't know about you, but I got amazing friends, right? And these conversations are mainly about our language and how we're communicating, not just with ourselves, but with each other. And I believe most of the times when we have miscommunications or we aren't communicating as effectively as we would like, it's because we're using the same words, but there are different meanings, or the word is showing up differently or completely opposite than another person. And the more that we're able to understand and appreciate what we're saying and how we're speaking to each other, the more that we can have the the conversations that will make a difference in our life. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.